me. So this is a presentation over Microsoft OneNote. And I've used Microsoft OneNote for a really long time. This is something even pre-COVID that I was using. And what I found out about it is that it has a really, really fantastic application for usage in the classroom, like more so than what like your typical things does. So Teams has a OneNote integrated into it. I think most of us saw that this year because we all had to use it. So you had, I think it was called Class Notebook. Did anybody use that? Jenna, how did you use it?
I used it to display notes for my students when I was teaching, and for any students that missed instruction that day for whatever reason, I was able to distribute out individually to those students. I was also able to make a virtual notebook instead of a physical journal for them.
So I did when I first started doing this a couple years ago. I did a lot of exactly what you did. I did not make my notebook shareable to the kids. I kind of retrospectively look back at that and say I probably should have, and just been really cognizant of what I kept in it. But one of the things that I particularly like about it is and all of us have inclusion kids, and all of us have kids who have a list of IEPs who you have to kind of continuously check boxes for. What OneNote allows you to do, aside from build curriculum, store it in a meaningful, obvious way, is it does allow you to help. It kind of like automatically starts checking off some of those IEP boxes that you have to check. And I think it's a wonderful usage. So I'm going to share my screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys a basic OneNote that I have created for my AP US History class. So I kind of worked on this a little bit this morning. I wanted to make sure that I could see everything. So what you have on this page, and everybody, can I just get a thumbs up? Jenna, I see your face. Can I get a thumbs up? Everybody can see my page? Cool. So one of the things that OneNote is particularly good for is organization. So over here on the left, this is really your hub. I am doing all of this through Office 365. So I'm going to kind of show you guys what I do first, and then I'm going to ask you guys to build your own. So in Office 365, this is ultimately what it would look like. So I've built an AP history notebook. This is my master notebook. And if you go over here, you will see all these little tabs built into them. Some of these are going to be really full. Some of these are not going to have anything in them. It just kind of depends on how it goes. I tried to finish this up and make it look a little better this morning. So period 1 for me is from 1442 all the way to 1607. And I have this spaced out into 2 particular columns. So my pages. If I wanted more notebooks, if I have multiple notebooks, you can access all of them here. And it just acts like a file drop down system that makes it simple for everybody. But I have it broken up into sections. And I am not confined to any number of sections. But the way that I teach the kids is I say, think of the sections tab very much like chapters. So this section right here, this section is just for all of our chapters 1 and chapter 2, and then everything that we store in here off to the side is for this. So your pages is where you can actually build content into the section. So I have this one that's built fairly large. So this is America before Columbus. And how I have it set up is I prefer to take all of my Microsoft Word stuff and copy and paste it back in to OneNote. You can add files. You can add notes or any, if you don't want to do it like this, you can add just basic files, or you could add PDF printouts. I'll talk about that here in a minute. You can do a whole bunch of different options for this. But this is the basics for it. How I've done doing this, though, is I actually go over here to my OneDrive. I'm going to do everything, and I'll open up another tab. I think that'll be easier. I do everything through the notes. So I'll show you where I had this from. So I have a billion files, probably like all of y'all. So I took from this one where it says collisions of cultures, and all I did was take America before Columbus, and I took everything that I had of my notes in this Word document, and I copy and pasted it into the OneNote. What some of y'all are probably looking at, you see the yellows, these for me are highlighted questions. They're not actually like they're questioning from the note. It's like what this allows me to do is if I'm in my AP history notebook and I share this with the kids will know what the question is beforehand. So they can kind of read this, catches their attention, and they can actually, as we're doing with the content or there's reading that they have to do, primary sources, this can help build into that. They know what the lens is before I go. And all I'll do is I'll come down here and I literally just say, hey, the growth of civilizations in the North. So I'll just copy this. It's really simple. As you copy it, and I'll come all the way back down to the end of my OneNote. I have a couple of videos, we'll talk about that here in a second, but your cursor can literally drop this wherever you want. If you wanted to make this page smaller, you can. I prefer to read it this way, but you can make these text boxes however you need to. And a simple copy and paste, and then you have to reformat it. That's probably the only issue that I've ever really had with it, but then you have your entire note set already there. You can add or attach images however you want, and then you can go from there. I have videos in place. So one of the frustration points of OneNote in this particular setting is that the district didn't buy us like the grand, massive version. So normally, like if you ever do this further, you're like, okay, I like this, I want to keep doing this. You can embed videos into the one that's on your desktop. You cannot embed videos into the one on 365, which is kind of frustrating, but the links work the same. So you can end up just saying, hey, this is the hyperlink, click the link, and it'll take you to where you go. So how many of you, so Jenna said she has, Patrick, have you ever worked with OneNote?
Yeah, I started playing around with it in summer school, but I mostly did it as like a way for me to just kind of like project out the notes that we were taking and stuff. Like I haven't used it anyway, other than like it was just a way for me to like I would duplicate the screen and then I would type out the notes that we were doing, and the kids would follow along on the paper because I needed paper to
get that. So what I had my kids do, probably should have let off with this. What I had my kids do, particularly in regular U.S. history, and this is where I immediately saw an application, and it was before we were doing all the COVID stuff. It was less about probably like y'all, the number one thing that I never could get my kids to do was take notes that were worth anything. Like they'd write something arbitrary down and then it would just be gone. And if I asked you to look it back up later, you could never find it. This became a really easy, succinct way for kids. What's up, little one? Became an easy way for us to have, for them to compile their notes and for me to do quick systematic checks. Like if you weren't doing right, I could see it instantly. If your notes weren't really complete, I could add to them, or I could allow the kids to collaborate together and they could build it. By the end of the year, it was cool. The year before COVID, again, hi little one. By the end of the year, what was really cool is all of my non-AP US history students, they had built their own digital textbook, for lack of a better term. It had embedded videos, it had pictures, it had maps, it had all the notes that we had taken. So instead of walking around with these big spirals, they had done that. So I'm going to ask that everybody open up Microsoft 365. And then everybody should, so on 365 over here on the left, if you've not ever done it, you're going to have all of these different options. Can't see everybody's kind of give me a thumbs up when you're at that 365 homepage. OneNote is this one. So if yours is organized like mine, you're going to have the home at the very top, and then you're going to have the OneNote function. If everybody will just go ahead and open up a OneNote and then go from there. We're going to repeat the instructions. Andy just said Andy and his wife just texted me and said they're trying to get on right now. Should. Anyway, so if everybody opened it. So this is the part where I would say I'd like you guys just to kind of take a few minutes, learn the landscape. So if I was just going to open up a brand new OneNote, I'll select on it and I'm just going to collect new notebook. You can title this notebook whatever you want to title it. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to put, I teach U.S. history, so I'm just going to put U.S. history, and I think I already have that in there. So I'm going to do U.S. history 2. So when I create it, because we have this scaled down version, there's going to be a couple of different things that we don't have as like an option. Ordinarily, you get this huge list of things, and it would ask you, what do you want? Like a content library, a student section, a collaborative space. It's going to give you a lot of those different options. We don't have some of that, which is, for better or for worse, is going to be okay. So right now it's going to say enter your first section name. And all I'm going to enter for this one is, let's just say, I'm just going to put imperialism, just for the sake of it. So under imperialism now, I can title this whatever I want to title it. So we'll just talk about Custer and the Advancement West. So from here, I can do anything I want. So I don't want to go through this next process and just show you exactly how I'm doing it. I kind of went through that earlier. I will build this along with you. I'm going to continue to share my screen. If we have questions, we can kind of chat with it a little bit. But I'd like you guys for the next, say, 5 minutes to kind of get into it. I'd like you to create anything you want. So most of us are coaches on this team. If we wanted to build like a schedule in the sections and say, these are what my opponent notes are going to be, this is what my scout is going to look like, this is where I want to put huddle video links, any of that stuff, I'd rather go that route as opposed to just the classroom content. Be my guest. How you doing, Coach Smith? No, that's okay. So I'm going to keep building this while you guys go together. So if you wanted to do notes or a PowerPoint, I guess I can kind of show you. Probably best if I showed y'all how to do that. So that option that's pretty good is if you have a PowerPoint. So I have a PowerPoint built for Custer's Last Stand. How you do that is you save it. You want to save as a PDF, and you want to download it in that way. So when I come back, what I can do is I can insert it. And you want to insert, you go to File, PDF Printout, and then you get to choose it. And what it'll do is if I wanted this to be the only notes that I had for the day, it would just automatically upload for them. So now the kids have the PowerPoint that we had for the day. If I had an audio recording or a video for it, or if you wanted to just go this route, you could also record yourself presenting a PowerPoint or your notes off this, and then record yourself from this as. What's up, Coach Smith?
How we doing?
Doing good.
Hey.
Mr. Donker, would you share your screen with us? I'm going to stop sharing. I just kind of want to see what you're working on and go from there.
I can get it to open. Nope, that is not what I'm working on. Never mind. I clicked the wrong one. Hang on.
Oh, you found some nice stuff immediately.
All right, that's a good question.
So why did you choose your debate class?
Well, this is actually the presentation I'm going to do, but what I want to do now is, since the special topics class we had got taken away, I'm going to push that a little bit more into my world geography class. I want to teach them some of the stuff that we did in special topics, where the depth of research can't go as far as I'd like to, but we can definitely go beyond Google. We can talk about sites they can look at, what's a good site, what's not, looking for bias, looking for corroboration with other sites for facts. So I'm going to teach them that, and then my thought is, if you can teach them, for me, teaching them how to debate is teaching them a skill they'll have for life. So I want to teach them how to debate a little more succinctly than I have been doing. I figured OneNote is a good way to do that, is to start out with by saying, here's the basics, here's what debate is, here's what debate is not, here's how you debate, here's the different styles, and then here's how you research for the debate. So that's what that's what I was thinking I'd build, so I'd have this notebook done. I have a PowerPoint already, but I can have the notebook done for students, the PowerPoints for teachers.
Okay. So Adrian and Andy, since y'all were, and it was cool. So where we're at right now is we've kind of done an introduction, kind of spoke about the usefulness of OneNote and what it's supposed to be good for. I'll say I like that, Mr. Donka. What the ultimate goal of this is going to be is show how OneNote can be very useful in a classroom setting for keeping different thoughts and things organized. Andy, I was talking to you a little bit about this yesterday. You have, since you do inclusion, but in a lot of ways, the kids that are on your caseload are not necessarily the same kids that you see in the classroom all the time. This could be a really, really easy way for you to have a section of each student and then a continual documentation tab or page for that student that you just keep with you at all times. I know I've seen certain guys walk around with like a pen and paper and just a notebook, and I always feel like that's probably not the most secure thing. It's not what you did, but I've seen that before. Casey, would you share your screen?
Yeah, let me do that real quick.
I imagine Adrian probably already has one of these built.
Where is share screen on here?
Up there at the top on y'all side, there should be like a little box with an up arrow.
Okay. All right. This is kind of what I'm looking at right here, messing around with the schedule.
Okay. So in your sections, are you going to add teams? Or are you going to add, like, what's your vision?
So I think like if I have like a season right here, 2022 soccer, I can have a link for the schedule, a link for like, for example, we do a sign up for team dinners and whatnot that could go in here. I've also thought about like, you know, if we have like, sometimes I'll do PowerPoints to game plan for specific teams that could go under here, and just kind of all sorts of different little documents all in one place for this given season. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Although I don't know how to move this thing. I just wanted a logo over here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you should be able to, it may be a little bit choppy on our end, but you should be able to. So what's the best way to do it is if you click over to your right. I don't know if it's mirrored. Yeah, it can't be mirrored. So click it over to your right, like to the right of the, like where it says result.
Yeah.
Click over there and open up you a new text box, or go a little further out than that. Keep it going.
It's not letting me even click it.
There.
Okay.
So now what you do is insert that picture there, and then you should be able to move it accordingly.
There we go. Cool.
You should be able to drag it wherever you want it to go now.
There we go.
So
Sweet.
it is, the app version is a little better, probably a lot better, to be honest, but it's not, it has certain features that we don't have on the 365, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have so many more that it justifies it, and it looks totally different, which I thought was super bizarre from the start, is that if you download it, like it doesn't put, like all the pages and the sections are off to the right. Like it's an overhead tab and then a drop down menu, which I've always thought was a little bit more cumbersome than just having everything to the right or to the left, forgive me.
Yeah.
So Ms. Jenna, would you show me your screen? If you had one that was already, let's go. So what was your thought process behind building this? You're on mute, sorry.
So I have it based off of units so that I can keep myself organized, like you had mentioned earlier. But I am able to, these kids can download the PDF of the assignment if they click this icon here. And they're able to have a printout version in front of them where I'm writing with my stylus the answers. And so these kids are not worrying about writing everything down that I'm saying, and instead can focus on the process that's going on at that time. And then for assignment purposes, I hyperlinked a form for their assignment to the next page. And so when you click it, it takes them directly to the assignment for that day.
You're kind of stealing my thunder. That was going to be like the ultimate thing. Whereas if you're doing this through Teams, there's some options for this now that are actually pretty cool.
Not bad.
No, that's perfectly fine. Andy and Adrian, so we'll start with Andy. I think you have some of like the most interesting usage here. Have you kind of caught up a little bit, or I need to give you a few more minutes?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm trying to build like a, I don't know if it'll share because my camera's not working.
The screen should be able to share.
Yes.
So what do I need to do?
Turn your mic off.
It is on.
Turn your volume off.
There we go. Feedback loops.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Did you say I can't hear him now?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good, Coach.
Okay.
Just tell him let me know when he calls on me and then we'll switch.
Okay, hold on. I don't know if I'm gonna share it. My screen will share because of my camera.
Then just kind of walk us through what you're looking at, man. That's okay.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is build like a PACES, like behavioral schedule, and connect it to Teams. But it's not really cooperating with me, or maybe I don't know how to do that. So basically,
that's going to be kind of like what the next thing. I was going to kind of get into that in a few more minutes. Just to cut you off, the district OneNote 365. One of the major drawbacks of this is that Teams will not load an existing OneNote.
okay.
Unless you build a brand new tab. And it's frustrating because you can, like in other districts, if they buy the full professional version and they buy like the actual license to do this, you can. When I worked outside of education, we had that ability, and it was amazing that in the digital world now, where we're supposed to be collaborating in this COVID distance learning stuff, that I couldn't just take an existing file and dump it into a compatible program. Like I can't. Oh, it's just always weird to me. But I'll show you how to do that in Teams.
My thought process, and maybe I'm way off, is like if I'm teaching the C's class, the behavioral, basically, I mean, it's teaching kids concepts of manners and anger management and those types of things. If I give them a lesson and stuff, I could share the notes, and then they could take their own notes and answer questions through OneNote. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, you absolutely can.
Yeah, and where they could see the presentation and stuff, because we do the Stephen Mackey character education stuff, and we just bought a couple of books that John Gordon wrote. I don't know if y'all know who John Gordon is, but big time positive author, writes all different types of stories and things to encourage people to be positive in those things. So that's kind of the lesson, the curriculum that we teach in those classes.
So I got this is so when I got into this is just because you brought it up, and I don't remember if y'all were here from the beginning. When I got into this and I started building the OneNotes, the one thing that I said was that this allows me to check off IEP boxes really, really easily.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, if you can have anytime you can have documentation that you're following somebody's individual education plan in today's world, as you guys know. So you can go to that ARD meeting, or you can sit down and with that parent say, this is what we've been doing for this kid, and X, what he or she is doing it, or they're not. And you have your documentation to prove that you've done what you've needed to do on your end, if that makes sense.
No, that's absolutely so. If you want to tell Adrian that we're going to ask her, I imagine she already has one that's built. That's probably going to be pretty elaborate. I'm guessing about that, but
I don't know if she's ever used OneNote, so I think she's sitting here trying to figure out how to upload something. So you may want to.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Yeah, she's ready to share her
Have her
screen.
share her screen, man.
For some reason, my camera is like frozen.
It's not the end of the world. It's okay.
Ah,
I think she's still muted too. Digital meetings
Okay.
and screen share whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Hang on.
Jenna, how's Charlie?
I don't think she heard you.
She's on mute. I think it's okay.
Okay. Yeah. To be honest, Vernon, I've never used OneNote. But I just did this. So I have hosting a sub-varsity tournament. And I mean, I know a little bit about OneNote. I've just never really utilized it. But I'm hosting a sub-varsity tournament this year. And eventually what I want to do is, this is kind of my test run, because I'm wanting to run a much bigger varsity level tournament with top teams all over. Because, we live at the coast. So that's a good thing to do, because I think those teams will come. But basically, what I did was I created a notebook, and what I need to be able to have the capability to update things live. But I think what I would be able to do is to create a link. So I went ahead, I inserted, this is my tournament cover letter. But what would be good, I just didn't get to it, but here's my pool play. So this is my pool play for Thursday. It's a 16-team tournament. So what I would like to be able to do is create a link to this, and then you'd be able to see the updates live, which I would need that capability to do if I did host a varsity tournament. So going through pool play, I would, once I know if a team has won or lost, of course, this document doesn't show it, but until I get that live capability to update live, I would have a win and loss column, right? Or you could be able to see and keep a running tally throughout the day of who's going where.
So I think you can. So sharing this live to other districts, I'd have to think about that.
It wouldn't be other districts. I mean, it would. I mean, does it have the capability to? I mean, it would be like
So
everybody. It would be like parents, coaches.
you could share this with anybody in district. That's not a problem.
In district.
Yeah, but sharing it to like John Paul or Ingleside, you could make it, and then so long as they had the program on a computer, which every Windows machine has OneNote. So if you sent it to them, then it would, but it wouldn't. Once it's on the desktop, it wouldn't update. But you could put it up on a TV, or you could easily put it up on a screen.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
it could just continuously update that way. That really wouldn't be that big of a deal. Or
yeah, that would work good.
You could have this on a website, and it could do it. It could be very similar. But if you wanted this to so this can update. So you can insert, because you clearly, I would assume you made this in Excel.
Well, I used a couple of different things, like the cover letter is Word.
Right.
The pool play I did create in Excel. And then, of course, I convert them to PDF files. And then my bracket play, I actually created in PowerPoint because that's the easiest way to create a bracket. And then I saved it as a PDF file. Right. So, I mean, what I would do is go through and on the original files, update them. And then when I send them out on a PDF file. But if it was something that was done live, obviously I would have to change the file formatting.
That's what I was going to say is on your pool play, you could very easily have that be an Excel document that you're editing and everybody can just see it.
Right.
You can insert an Excel sheet into this.
Yeah, here, let's do this. I'll show you the Excel document. Oi. Oh, okay, it's good.
So you're like me, you have a file for everything.
Yep. Oh, well, the Excel document's not coming up.
I don't think
files, right?
Excel is compatible with.
Oh, will it not?
OneNote.
I wonder if it's not on 365. Because
it's not showing the document. It's showing images. Because I do have an Excel document.
I believe you. Huh.
Just Tyler, notice that when you put a Microsoft Word document in the screen, it puts an icon for.
Right. No. You have to.
And it converts it to PDF. Yeah, that's my PowerPoint has to be put in a PDF.
Never tried to put an Excel sheet in this. I just assumed it would work. I'd have to play with that, but that's actually kind of a challenge on my end. I'd like to figure that out. I don't use Excel sheets a whole lot in my setting for this usage, but I would love to figure that one out. I absolutely would like that.
I mean, the only other thing you would do is
you were in the picture. Try the insert file attachment, because see how you said picture? Go over to
yeah. Oh, there it is.
There we go. So that's why I have Jenna on. She can keep me straight. But then it does just bring you to your Excel sheet.
Right. So it literally just does the icon, and then you can click on the icon.
Yeah, but they're just gonna let you download the file. I bet you were correct when if you made it as a table, like you inserted the table with the appropriate functions. I bet you that would work. Just some thoughts. So I'm gonna kind of go to the next phase of this. So if you don't mind, Adrian, stop sharing.
No, I want to share my screen. Okay, wait, hang on. I forget. Right here, right? Okay, yeah. Cool.
So I'm gonna show you guys something on another one that I like to do. So there's multiple ways to do this that make it kind of useful. So let me get to this one now. So let me go back. So in Microsoft Teams, so like right now things are a little bit squirrely. So like what the ultimate function of this is. So right now with Microsoft Teams, one thing that's kind of frustrating is that you cannot take what's in your OneNote and just upload it directly into Microsoft Teams. There's some ways around that, but there's nothing that's particularly great. But one thing that you can do that I've liked is if you go to assignments. So I'm just going to kind of click on this. So we've all been to Microsoft Teams. This is more of a classroom setting as opposed to a sports setting, but I think it all is going to be kind of it'll be nice either way. You can create assignments in Microsoft Teams that are going to reference this class notebook. So if I click on just the notebook, I build one of these for every single one of my classes, and that's kind of how I did it. I just kind of made my AP classes mirror images of each other, and it really didn't take me but a few minutes to do that. I could usually knock it out during a passing period, and then once it's there, it's there. With the assignment, what's pretty cool is all the kids that are missing it. One, they know just to go to the notebook ultimately, and then they do that. But if you want to create an assignment, you can actually add attachments or resources from the class notebook, which is fairly nice. So if you installed, let's say you just put the link for the PowerPoint, or you wanted them to go back and reference this particular note set, and you wanted them to hunt through that, it's pretty easy for you to pick through this and then go through what you wanted them to have and to use that. Something else that's fairly nice about OneNote, and I don't have this one in any one of my class features, but that's okay, is, sorry, wrong one. I have like 4 different versions happening at the same time. One thing that is nice, if you go into your class notebook, and I'll do this, we'll do this one in the, you can just be here and this is fine. So if I wanted to add something to this, which is actually kind of nice, Jenna alluded earlier that you could add a Microsoft Forms to this. And so if I go to insert and I come over here and it just says Microsoft Forms, I can click on Forms. And then from OneNote, I can actually, so it's going to make me sign in really quickly, and that's going to be okay. 2 seconds. Was signed in, and now she's not signed in. This is going to be really, really awesome if it doesn't work. Amazing. You can actually, if you build your lessons through this, cool. So if you build your lessons through this, you can actually insert forms directly into it. So, this way. So all of my forms, and I've done a couple of them at this point, but let's just say I'm going to go to period 1 through 3 EOC. What I want to do is I want to share it and get my link. So I should be able, exactly as what Jenna was saying, copy it, and I can come right into this one. And down here at the very bottom, where I have all my James Monroe stuff, and at the very end of this file, I can add my forms document. And what it'll do is this link is going to hyperlink it. It's, and my computer's just moving really, really slow, as y'all can see. What it'll ultimately do is you can actually embed the test into this. And you can embed it as a full file, and it becomes a really, really useful tool for everybody to have. So, Patrick, I think you were the only one who we really didn't get to talk to. What did you have created on this one? You're on mute, Bubba.
Yeah, I didn't realize that my screen was off, and I'm sorry if my microphone sounds awful. There's people sleeping, and I have something on. So this is what I was working on. I just kind of like what you alluded to. I took something that I've already made, and then I started making a little notebook out of it. So it's something that I had already sitting on my desktop here. So it's actually on a thing.
Oh, his internet his internet's dropping out. Yeah, his internet dropped out. So how do y'all see this as useful? So Adrian, I think you did a really, really good job, but how do y'all see this as useful as far as your classroom is concerned?
Well, I'll be real honest. My classroom, I mean, I think I could utilize it, but my classroom is an online platform, so my kids access every online platform. Like everything that I would create in OneNote would just be a duplication of what is already on the online platform. Does that make sense? But I definitely would utilize it more on the coaching side. I do the Stephen Mackey character building stuff, and that's how I would utilize it, using this, probably my character building with the girls, where I would have the worksheets and with the 2 wow of the week and their worksheets and their activities and things like that. That's how I would utilize it.
I get that. So Patrick, you kind of dropped out a little bit before you just exit out on your screen share. Talk us through what you built, man.
Yeah, so what I've got working on here is this was a PowerPoint. I did it on my Mac, so I did it in Keynote on like how to help volunteer coaches build practices for like youth soccer. So it was just something that I wanted to have like in my back pocket that I could share with pretty much anyone. And so what I did for this was kind of similar to what you had mentioned, where you could take stuff you've already made and throw it into OneNote. I took little screen grabs of each of the slides and I inserted them as pictures into the stuff that I've done there. So as you just slide through, it already looks like it there. And then the next thing I was trying to do before I realized that my screen was off was was going to try and find like little videos that you can embed in there with, like hyperlinks. Like if maybe you like can put make a link for it or something like it. It doesn't look like you can embed videos.
Yeah. For whatever reason, the district did not buy the full scale version of this. Because you can, like, which is frustrating, because if you YouTube this, like, it's a really, really simple process. Like, it's supposed to be you just insert the link and a video player just adapts to that.
You can do it.
Doesn't.
You can do it in the 365 PowerPoint, but this is what I went ahead and did, and we would do something similar for boys. Let me see if I have it. Like, hey, I'm working right now. I'm sorry. Like where we have presentations that we do periodically, at the start of every year, or before games, where we could like kind of take the same principle where I take the PowerPoint that I've already made and then just put like screen grabs into the OneNote. So rather than them having a bunch of links, it's all in one place, and presumably they can like store it. So I guess I could have done this already. I just picked the thing I could find first, but you could do the exact same thing where I just take screen grabs of these and put them into the. But the issue I was running into was when I tried to make it a PDF and put it in there, it said that there was a limit to how big the thing I could add in there was. I don't know if that was just me not understanding what you said we could do, but
I've added some pretty big PDFs.
Okay, let me show you what that issue I was having. So if I tried to just take like the PDF that I went and made of that like whole presentation and then just drag it and drop it in there, it's telling me that it has to be less than 19 megabytes in size.
My way around that, what I'd go back is to your original document, because I assume it was one of those PowerPoints that you just showed us. I would do like a specific PDF print of half the document and then do the other half and get around it that way. That would be my easiest suggestion on that one. It would look like there's two PDFs there, but it would read like there's only the one. That would be my
got it. Okay.
That would be my quick suggestion.
All right.
So you can stop sharing your screen, man. Like, I genuinely appreciate it. So I'd like to open this up for questions or anything concerns. I want to thank you guys very much for helping me out. So what questions do y'all have, if any?
Don't have any, just the thought that I know some of my students have used OneNote to take notes when I'm lecturing, so I may pursue that route because they've said that they find it much easier to organize their notes that way.
I've made, this last year I made my AP kids do that. Like you had to have a OneNote. I didn't make my regular kids do it this year, but that was also the class that had the most asynchronous learners. Basically every one of my AP kids came back. And so it just made, but I made them do that to keep everything organized. And I think I found success using it and making the kids use it. Even if they were just building their own stuff, I found that to be more useful, as opposed to even really just like the classroom setting. It was or a class book setting. It was nice.
I think it's definitely could be used. Hold on 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Just turn the volume down.
I think it definitely, if you're an inclusion teacher and you're following your case kids, using it, having those kids use it to take notes so you can ensure that they're taking notes for one and you can check on it and see it. It could be very beneficial to case workers, in my opinion. Because a lot of times kids will say they're taking notes or they'll be in a spiral or they'll lose their spiral. And in this case, you can always have track of it and see it. So I definitely see a positive use for special education teachers and inclusion teachers.
Jenna, you already use it, so that's a positive. So
Yeah,
Casey,
but I'm gonna show Adrian something real quick on the sharing. So over here on the top right, it has this share button. And so anyone with the link can edit it, and you can take that editing option away, but I don't see why she wouldn't be able to share this with people outside of GP unless she only wants people within the GP.
that password thing is new. I hadn't seen the password situation, so you could just set your password to your coaches.
Yes, and so I mean you can hit apply and whatnot. And you also talked about forms.
You're probably the expert on this one, and I have no problem saying that.
The only downside to inputting a form into the page like this is it makes it really small. And so if you have things that you need to scroll over for, it can cause issues for kids. But that's just my 2 cents on.
I've personally never put forms into the OneNote. I've never used it as a platform for that. But if I wanted to have like a quiz, like, hey, here are the notes, here's the quiz immediately following it, that was the only application I could see it being good for. But I thank you. I don't know why mine wasn't letting me do it. I did it right before the presentation, and then here comes presentation time, and then it doesn't. That's how this stuff goes. So I want to thank you guys for being here. I won't take up any more of your time. If you want to hang around and ask questions, or we can keep working through something, you can. Otherwise, please feel free to leave. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for helping me with this one.
No problem, man.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Donka.
Yeah, of course.